Hello, my name is Ariel, like the mermaid. I've made a few vlogs that has referred to the idea of privilege, and obviously that's kind of caused a little bit of discussion, and a lot of people don't really like the term privilege for some reason, and I kind of wanted to make a video where I acknowledged my own privilege, because I think at the end of the day, I think the point of privilege shouldn't be about who's oppressed more than who, or it shouldn't be about, it's not trying to say that, you know, just because you're privileged that everything is great for you or that there's nothing wrong in your life. That's not really what the point of privilege is. So I thought I would make a video acknowledging my own privilege, because guess what? I'm actually pretty privileged in many ways. First of all, I have white privilege. At the end of the day, there are certain things about being a person of color that I'm going to have difficulty understanding because I haven't had the same experience, and I've had certain advantages in life because I'm white. A lot of people aren't going to make certain assumptions about me based on my skin color, the same kind of assumptions that a lot of people are going to make about a black person, or about an Asian person, or about a Hispanic person. You know, there's certain advantages that I have just being white in America. Also, I have some socioeconomic privilege because my family is a pretty financially stable family. We don't really have to worry as much about money the same way, or certainly I haven't had to worry as much about money as much as a lot of other people in different situations would. And because of that, I have privilege because of the opportunities I've had with education. You know, at the end of the day, right now I'm in college, and I don't think there's a good chance that I'll be able to go through college, and I'm not really going to have to worry that much about whether I'm going to be able to afford my tuition at my college. And I think, and that's certainly a lot of privilege. That's a huge privilege, you know, because, you know, just being able to have education and have a good education is extremely, gives you a lot of advantages and a lot of opportunities in life. I'm also an able-bodied person, and that gives me a lot of privilege too, you know, the fact that, I mean, you know, just that I won't really be able to fully understand the experience of a disabled person. Now, even though I'm trans and I don't identify as male, there have been some ways in my life that I have experienced male privilege. Now, that's not to say that all trans people experience male privilege, or all trans people who were assigned male at birth have experienced male privilege, but in many ways I have. I'm just speaking for myself, so don't put that on other people. But there are several ways I have, to some degree, personally, benefited from male privilege. One thing is, at the end of the day, I think slut-shaming won't really have the same effect on me that it does on a lot of women, because, and I think that's really put on women even from a young age, the idea of, I mean, because at the end of the day, if I dress a certain way, and someone calls me a slut, it's not really I'm not really going to care. I just don't really that's not really ingrained in me from a young age that I have to dress a certain way, and I don't want to be perceived a certain way. So, I mean, that's one example of how I've kind of benefited from male privilege, because I just haven't had that really instilled and drilled into my brain from a young age. And that's what a lot of people who were assigned female do have kind of put into their brain. And there are some ways I still, you know, benefit from male privilege, even though I don't identify as male, because sometimes, you know, people do perceive me as male, and there's certain things that they're not going to put on me that they would put on women, and I'm not affected. You know, there are some ways that I am affected by misogyny, but a lot of times I'm not always in the same way that a lot of women are. Another way I'm privileged is thin privilege. I'm a pretty thin person, I think, and, you know, I think a lot of times in our culture we really there's a certain standard for a certain body type, and, you know, I haven't really felt that kind of pressure to try to change my body as much, and I'm sure there's other forms of privilege that I have that I don't even really know about. Does the fact that I have a lot of this privilege, does that mean that I don't have any problems in my life and that there's nothing that's hard in my life? No, absolutely not. There's definitely struggles, but personally, overall, I mean, I've had a pretty good life, and I've, you know, I mean, I'm a pretty happy person overall. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm certainly not trying to say, whenever I am mentioning the idea of privilege, I'm not trying to say, oh, well, because you're cisgender, or because you're heterosexual, or whatever, oh, you have it easier than me, and you're, like, gonna have a way happier life than me, because, like, I don't have that. No, in many ways, I'm very privileged, and also I'm just, like, I do have a good life. But at the end of the day, I think it is important to emphasize these differences and understand how sometimes people's perspectives are limited, because they aren't oppressed and they have certain advantages that other people don't. It's not about, you know, who's oppressed more than who, and it's not about judging you because you, or it's not about even that you don't have to feel guilty because you have privilege, because it wasn't a choice to have privilege, so you don't have to feel guilty about it, but it's just important that you're aware of it, and you know, you don't get a free pass to allow oppression to still exist. Nobody does. Just because you recognize your privilege doesn't mean that you are saying that you're like, everything's great in your life. It's not. I think one of the reasons why a lot of people really don't like the idea of privilege is, I think there's something about our culture. I think we like the underdog. You know, we like to think of ourselves as the person who's not the person on top. Sometimes we like to think of ourselves as the victims, and we like to think of ourselves as the people who aren't, you know, sometimes we like to see ourselves as the person who is oppressed and who, you know, rises above it. You know, I mean, because that's like a common thing in movies and books, you know, is the underdog who, you know, has to rise above it all. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know. I don't think of myself that way. I don't think I'm the underdog. I think I have a lot of advantages. I think the important thing, just because you have privilege doesn't mean that everything's perfect, and doesn't mean that your struggles aren't legitimate, because, you know, they are.